$100,000 a year betting on sports? Come on. That seems like clickbait. Or a scam. Seems like the kind of video where a talking $100,000 bill would be appropriate. Well, yeah. Hi, I'm Jack, and if you're new to this channel, I put out sports betting education content. And recently I surpassed 10,000 subscribers, and my way of saying thank you is making this video that you're watching right now. So if this is your first time seeing me, well then hello and welcome, and hopefully I can earn your subscription as well. If you search YouTube for how to make money at sports betting, you're going to descend down a rabbit hole of scams and touts and liars and outright morons. Now, some of whom just want your click. They just want you to view their video. However, others are a bit more nefarious than that. They want your money because they want you to sign up for their system or their picks. Look, I'm not here to waste your time with any of that, so let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to get started with the first point in how to make $100,000 a year betting on sports, and that is that it's very hard. It's nearly impossible to make $100,000 a year using just one angle, like picking NFL winners. And the reasons for that are many. First of all, the market is too efficient, and no sportsbook is going to want to lose $100,000 to one player just bashing their brains in like that. But what if we were to say, how about winning $50,000 at each of two angles, or $25,000 at each of four angles, or maybe let's break it down even further, at 8 angles, each for $12,500 a year. Well, that only works out to be about a little more than $1,000 per angle per month, and now suddenly $100,000 in a year seems a little bit more attainable. The key point right here is that you need to diversify and distribute your income streams when it comes to sports betting. You can't be a one-trick pony. You're going to have to come up with different ways and different angles to approach sports betting. That's the diversification part. The distribution comes in that you're going to need to ply your trade at as many different sports books as possible. Meet me over at the desk. Okay, the first exercise I want you to do is I want you to make a list of all the ways that you can think of to win at sports betting. Now, it doesn't matter if they're all viable to you at the current time. This is an exercise for you to brainstorm what it would take. So go ahead and physically make a list, and I'll give you a leg up here with some ideas. Promotions and bonuses. So I've talked a lot about this in my videos. These promotions and bonuses that are out there at these new legalized sports books are literally giving away free money. They're a great way, and they should be definitely on your list. Arbitrage opportunities. If you have a lot of books to choose from, you have the ability to find situations where two sports books may offer an opposing price that actually gives a profit. Injury information. So suppose you knew who the starters were going to be, who was going to play, who might not play, and you were able to get that information before the market reacted. That's a great way to have an edge. Likewise, stale lines. Suppose you have a sports book that doesn't react to market movement, and you're able to snag some stale lines at that sports book. Or maybe we can go the route of you're very good at DFS and you have some player props that you could definitely take advantage of. Maybe ones that you don't even see out there yet, but you know that if that were to come up, you have the edge there. Or an idea is, what if you had a game simulator where you could enter in variables about the game and it would project out the final score? Definitely, these are things you might not be already able to do, but it's good to have these things in mind for the future. And see if you can come up with some other ones on your own. So make this list as long as possible and be as detailed as possible. Don't make a list where you're like, well, in order to win at sports betting, I'm going to pick winners at football, pick winners at baseball, and I'm going to crush March Madness. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for definite ideas and angles that you can use in order to beat sports betting. And try to drill down as deep as possible into what the exact wagers or what the exact scenarios would be. So go ahead, make your list. I'll wait. Just kidding. I'm not going to wait. You can pause this video. You can stop and come back to this later. We've got other things to do. Let's go. Okay, we've got our diversified product list. Now we need to come up with a potential distribution list. Now again, we're going to make a list, this time of all the potential sports books that you have access to. Now, if you have only one legal sports book in your state and it's run by the state lottery, well, you may need to supplement your list with some offshore sports books. And if you don't really have any access to those, you may need to use some more local, less trustworthy outs. But the point is, we need to make as big a list as possible here as well to find how many places you can ply your trade. Now, I realize some of you might be a bit lost right now. You're new to sports betting and you're not sure which sports books are legal or unregulated in your state. Well, Google is your friend. Go ahead and look up your jurisdiction's laws and regulations when it comes to sports betting. I would encourage you to always adhere to the rules and regulations of wherever you're viewing this video from. And don't be too dejected if your list isn't that long. Some of you may be viewing this from a competitive state where there are a lot of sports betting options, while some of you are going to have to consider the idea of traveling to some other states to get your bets down or to take advantage of the sports books in that area. The important part, though, is that you make your distribution list. Now, these two lists together are going to be a big part of your evolution as a sports bettor. As you grow and learn and network with other sports bettors, you're going to be able to add to both of these lists. Consider this to be your tool belt. And as you grow and learn, you learn how to use new tools and you find the right tool for the job. Along the way, you'll find new places to use these tools as well. Listen, you're going to gain some outs, you're going to lose some outs. That's just the way it goes in this business. The key point is, whenever you find a new place to ply your trade, you're going to have this list of all your available angles to go over and see how many of them will apply to your new distribution point. And of course, you're going to have those angles on your list that are a work in progress. But now you'll have even more distribution points in order to try to figure out each of those puzzles. I spent too much time making this effect to only use it for a couple seconds at the beginning of this video, so I'm back in here to talk about money, specifically your bankroll requirements. Now, we've all heard the joke that the best way to make a small fortune at gambling is to start with a big fortune. Well, you're not going to be able to make $100,000 a year starting with just $10 in your pocket. Sorry to disappoint some of you. If you have less than $100,000 to devote to your sports betting bankroll, then it's going to be tough to make $100,000 in a year. Now, that's not to say that it can't be done, because here's where we get into the nuance of that list that you made. Some of the items you listed may require very little bankroll at all. Sometimes the chance of losing large sums is mitigated by the bigger edge that you would have or the nature of the wager. Now, some of them, however, will require a bit more risk tolerance, and with risk tolerance comes variance, and you need bankroll to overcome the swings that are associated with your betting. If you're starting out with a small bankroll, let's say $10,000, you can't afford to do all of the items on your list. You're going to need to pick and choose the cheapest ones and the easiest ones to do that will get you the most potential profit. This is the low-hanging fruit that I'm often talking about in my other videos. You're going to need to build your bankroll up before you get to the point where you can realistically expect to double it in 1 year. I suggest referencing some of my other videos I've made on building a bankroll out of very little. I'll put a link to it up there in the corner. It's important to remember that the purpose of a bankroll is to provide you a cushion against negative variance. The less cushion you have, the more you need to be careful about how you use your bankroll. Now, if you've got a good-sized bankroll ready to devote to this, well then, good, it's on to the next step. But be realistic with your bankroll, and remember, the best thing that you can possibly buy with your winnings is a bigger bankroll. By the way, are you enjoying this video? Well, can you do me a favor and hit that like button below? That lets YouTube know that this Captain Jack guy is all right and helps promote the video. All right, I think it's time for me to get out of this bill. The next step is for you to figure out how much expected value you can make for each angle on your list. Now here's the thing about expected value, or EV as we call it. You'll never exactly hit your EV number, but the more you try, the closer you'll probably get. We often can't precisely measure our EV. You see, we're projecting a probability, and the sportsbook is projecting a probability, and we're just hoping to be less wrong than the sportsbook. So here's what you have to do. You have to budget to earn more EV than that $100,000 number in order to have a better chance at hitting your $100,000 EV goal. So take a look at your list and figure out how much EV each of your angles is worth. And remember, our goal is to diversify income streams and distribute them among various distribution points. So having a viable angle that works at more than one book is very good. Having an angle which you can extract a little pound of flesh here and there at different sports books, well, that's the ideal way to go about this. Now, you're going to have to be honest about how much something is worth, and this is where this approach can really go off the rails for some of you. This is all predicated on you having an edge. If you don't have an edge, you're not going to be profitable. End of video. And if you have an edge at something like low-hanging fruit, but you have a leak in your game where those wins are easily lost back at other forms of sports betting or other forms of gambling, well then again, you're not going to be profitable at this. You need to close those gaps, seal those leaks, before you can move forward as a disciplined and profitable sports bettor. So sit down and look over your list. And this is where a lot of the art of sports betting starts to come into play. For instance, you can make $50 in EV each day just taking advantage of bonuses and promotions if you're in a competitive jurisdiction. But that doesn't mean that $50 will translate to about $18,000 of EV for the year, because if you're just trying to hammer those promotions at the same single sportsbook every single day, and that's all you're betting, well, they're going to grow tired of your action. So you need to be able to know how to distribute your action among various sportsbooks, as well as give sportsbooks enough normal play so that they don't mind if you're taking advantage of promotions. A good video you can check out is my video on the secrets of the betting pyramid, and that'll tell you a little bit how to distribute your action among the sportsbook so that they don't cut you off too soon. Likewise, you need to be careful not to overestimate your EV. So if you put down that you have a $100 EV on $500 of wagering, well, you better make sure that you have a 20% edge on some angle. And I'll break it to you now. There's no 20% edges on sides and totals in major sports markets. That they just don't exist. So you need to be realistic and you need to be honest about how much your edge is going to generate. Next, what I want you to do is I want you to put an EV figure on your list next to each angle. Now, I prefer to make mine in terms of monthly profit and then also notate how many months this angle is viable. So for instance, if you have something in the NFL and you have, let's just say, a 10% EV and you are wagering $1,000 at it each time and you're able to get it about 4 times each NFL weekend. So that's $400 of EV on each NFL weekend, $1,600 a month. The NFL season is only 4 months long. So what I would write down is 1,600/4. $1,600 of EV in a month and only viable for 4 months out of the year. And remember, I had you put down things on your list that you might not know your EV for yet because you don't know how to do those things yet. That's fine. Leave them blank. They're just an enticement for future you to go back and try to find ways to gain a further edge and find new ways to unlock new angles in sports betting. Oh, and if you're stuck on how to calculate EV, well, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is calculate each of the possible outcomes by their likelihood. So if you have a bet of $150 that you're placing on something with minus 150 odds, but you think it has a 70% chance of hitting, then you just need to multiply out the outcomes. So 70% times $100, which is what you'll win if you were to win the wager, is $70 plus $70. And 30% times minus $150, which is what you would lose if you lose, is minus $45. So 70 minus 45, you have a $25 EV on that situation. Did you really think you would be able to get through this video without at least a little bit of math? One more word about your betting. You'll hear a lot of people talk about bankroll management as the key to success in sports betting. Too many people rely on it as some kind of magical crutch that can lead them to riches. When it comes down to it, if you're not putting your money into wagers that have a positive expected value, no amount of bankroll management is going to save you. Seek out the positive EV wagers wherever you can find them. There are no style points awarded here. Money earned from low-hanging fruit is just as green as money you earn from spending days upon days poring over the NFL schedule. When it comes to bet sizing, there are two approaches. First is the Kelly criterion, which basically says that whatever your edge is on a wager, that's the percentage of your bankroll you're going to wager on it, adjusted for the odds. Then there is flat staking, which, as you can guess, you're betting the same amount on each wager. My only comment is that since we can't precisely calculate our edge all the time, you may want to tone down the Kelly criterion and just bet a fraction of your edge, such as 1/2 or 1/4. If you feel even less certain about quantifying your edge, then using a flat stake approach where you're wagering just 1% of your bankroll on each wager is more appropriate. If you are like most people and your bankroll doesn't give you the chance to realistically make $100,000 a year betting on sports, well then you need to focus on growing your bankroll to the point that it will. And let's talk about that. Okay, so now you have your diversified income stream and how much they're each going to be worth. It's time to put it all together. This is where you add it all up and see how close you can get to that lofty $100,000 goal. But remember, you need to have EV that exceeds that goal in order to have a good chance at actually hitting your goal. Most of you will add this up and realize you're far short of $100,000 in EV. However, that's to be expected. If you already had the tools and techniques needed to make $100,000 a year betting on sports, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. We need to figure out how to bridge that gap from where you are now to where you want to be. You're going to need to scale it up. And the easiest way to scale it up is to win and then bet bigger as you go along. I realize though that's not always how it happens. You're going to find that some of your diversified income streams dry up quicker than others. Or perhaps they have a limit on how much they can actually be worth to you. You're going to need to scale upwards by stacking more and more angles on top of the ones you have in order to increase your skills and increase your ability to earn. I'm going to call this scaling vertically. You're stacking each new angle on top of the ones you already have. I alluded to it earlier, but networking is a great way to grow your skills and angles. There is a big advantage to sharing information in smaller circles and a big disadvantage to broadcasting information in larger ones. If you want to grow your profits, you're going to need to grow your angles. The nice thing about this is, though, it will also shrink your variance. The more diversified your list of angles, the less likely that any one of them will make or break you. Now, the same thing's true about your distribution points. The more outs you have, the less likely that any one of them will make or break you, or that losing an out will have a big effect on how much you're able to profit as a sports bettor. So scaling your operation vertically has benefits. However, what about scaling your operation horizontally? This is some of the best advice in this video, and I've saved it towards the end because if you've made it this far, then you're serious about this endeavor. Just as I said at the beginning of this video that it's hard to reach your profit goal using just one angle, well, it's hard to reach your profit goal using just one person. Now, let's be clear about something. All sportsbooks have terms and conditions that prohibit the use of sharing an account or logging into somebody else's account. However, most sportsbooks also offer referral bonuses for you to refer other people to their platform. You can, in effect, evangelize sports betting to your friends and family to get them to sign up. You can coach them through playing through the new user sign-up bonus and maybe some other slam dunk promotions, and perhaps they can share some of the profits with you for your expertise. Now, I don't need to go into much detail here, but this is also effective in other angles where you might find yourself running into limits or a cap on your winnings. You will be expanding horizontally your ability to take advantage of many of the angles on your list. The best part is you're only limited by your resourcefulness in working with other people. Now, I will caution you again not to violate the terms and conditions of the sports books in taking this approach. These sports books are not dumb. They record not only your IP address, but device signatures and geolocation. However, use your ingenuity, and I think you're going to find that this is a great way for you to boost your profitability. And of course, telling your friends and family about my channel of videos is a great way to put them on the right track when it comes to their sports betting. So there you have it. Not a clickbait, not a scam, and certainly not easy. But then again, the best things in life never are easy. So go ahead and make your list of diversified income streams. Make your list of distribution points. Be honest about your bankroll, and then plan out the when and the where and the how that you're going to execute this. And then scale it up and scale it out. You have the knowledge and you have the ability to do this. It's just a matter of putting in the time and effort to make it happen. Now, of course, there's still a lot we didn't cover, but hey, I got to leave something in the tank for the 20,000 or 50,000 or even the 100,000 subscriber special that I'll put out, right? If you want to see what I have in store, well, you're going to need to subscribe and tell others to subscribe as well. There's a lot of great topics to explore together. And don't forget to hit that like button. That lets YouTube know that this is the kind of content you want to see when you look for how to make money at sports betting. Now, go out there and win some wagers, and I'll see you back here next time.